He's good with it, and how quickly the isosceles has all fallen apart here. Sean has no loyalty to
I should
Beth.
like this.
Yes, it's all broken up. Welcome, everybody. It is Wednesday, April 28th, 2021. It is the 25th episode of Big Brother Canada 9, which has just concluded. And Jaemeel Robinson and myself, Dave Mader, are here on Super Mader Brothers podcasting to break down this very special Wednesday, both nominations and veto episode. Normally, not both of these things would happen in the same episode if it was not a double eviction, but it did. It's crazy times in these Big Brother worlds. And we're here to react to this. Jaemeel, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing, as best as we can be in this current climate. How are you doing?
I'm surviving. I'm healthy, and I have to be grateful for that. So it's there's
grateful. You're giving me chills now. Thoughts of last season or the season before, Big Brother 21. Don't make me relive it.
I won't. Okay, I didn't mean to hit a nerve there, but let's get into this this episode tonight as we're kind of closing into the final days of this season and this final five and some interesting dynamics in this cast. How did you feel this went tonight? We see this this Braden HOH. Is it everything you were hoping for?
Well, I don't want to come across as being single-minded in terms of who I'm rooting for, which Kiefer. So in terms of this episode, it went smashingly for that. In terms of Braden, looking objectively, it's awesome how Braden is going about his HOH. But I think he kind of dropped the ball, if you know what I'm saying, when it came to the latter aspects of this episode.
Well, what do you mean, his veto win and his?
Well, I wasn't. I was building to that. I was. What
a great feeling! I am HOH.
It looks like he was practicing that, and he had that.
He's been practicing that since his original audition. That's what he came in with. They were like, that's what they were going for.
Braden hit the jackpot.
Everything's been coming up Braden lately. He's on a streak here. He's doing well. He won a fake veto, and then he was like, no, I have to win real vetoes now too. As he won this tonight. He had all the power tonight, Braden.
Yes, he did.
Beth cannot handle it.
Beth is an interesting character because there was a lot of the blame game happening in this episode, and I think she was a little, let's say, how would you say? She's a little bit not really looking at herself in the mirror when it comes to pointing the finger, because I think if she was a little bit more honest with herself to other people, she would have been in a better spot.
Yeah, Beth's not that good of a player as much as she likes to believe she is. She kind of she wrote this narrative for herself in this season because there was kind of this, there was a little bit of a streak where her and Jed were doing fairly well, but they were doing alpha moves.
That'd be an alpha move.
They were big into it. They had their team game going. The isosceles triangle was running things. It was not a fun time, and those times are done. Beth does not even really have Ty anymore either.
No, and she had to have known that this was eventually coming, especially with how close she got with Jed. So once they broke up, you knew Ty was not gonna have that same type of loyalty that she was kind of expecting to be back. She had him in reserve. He was clearly her number 3. So he moved on. And as I was mentioning before weeks ago, right, we didn't really see it on the TV, but I was mentioning how close he and Braden were getting. And we kind of see
Yes.
Beth refer to it in this episode as well.
Yeah, okay. So I thought we should probably jump right to that because you've been talking about this since like week 2. I think, or week 3 or so, very early. I don't know exactly when it was, but it's been sort of this unsaid story throughout the season that there's been this whole flirtmance going on between Ty and Braden this whole time. that hasn't really been talked about on the show at all. Their relationship has not really been displayed, even their friendship. But here tonight, now that Braden is the HOH, Ty's like, yeah, I've been flirting with him the whole time. And I think that Ty is leaning into this idea of like, yeah, I've been running things. I've been working my angles. Maybe the producers with some leading questions, Ty's latching on to those things, and it's giving him, he's like, yeah, I could make this case for myself at the end. Here, I got this whole thing because I thought it couldn't really be cut up as much.
I know Braden has had a crush on me for a long time now. So for weeks, I've been cuddling with him, massaging him, rubbing his back, and we even made a Final 2 deal.
Yeah, and Beth makes a reference. It's like, you've been in his bed, like the folks, if you didn't know, I said it before, and if you're denying it, you're hearing it here. You're hearing the source, the sauce of this situation. And Ty has set himself up pretty well for this time period. So when people are asking, hey, why isn't Braden? This is why.
Well, yeah, and so it kind of it gives this whole new context to Beth's sort of hate for Braden, or how much she trashes Braden. She's like, he does nothing. He doesn't deserve to be here. Well, clearly he does deserve to be here. He's clearly made a mark for himself in these last few weeks. But he's had this really sort of up and down game. At times extremely down. Thinking back to the days of when he was paired up with Austin, but that feels like so long ago now. But also,
yeah, you're right. No, you're right.
But also this whole angle he has with Ty socially, and clearly he has a relationship with Kiefer, but it's not as strong as his one with Ty. We saw here tonight that he was even, that Braden was, maybe we should take out Kiefer. I also watched the exit interview with Jedson and Taryn Armstrong. I don't know if you saw that.
I did. I did.
And you saw here that Jed's like, yeah, if they leave Kiefer to Final 2, Kiefer will win. Trust me. Look. Right. And I'm inclined to believe that right now that Kiefer is sort of, why would you not just vote him out? He deserves to win just because that you didn't vote him out when you had all these chances.
Absolutely. And like Tara was kind of mentioning it today, like Kiefer's getting all the credit for stuff, right? Because Tara told Jed that it was all Kiefer's fault that he got eliminated. He was the mastermind. So when that's the only bit of information that Jed received. So he's going back to Jury House and he's saying that exact thing because he doesn't know anything else, right? So it's like they are setting Kiefer up. And as I mentioned before, I'm kind of rooting for the dude. The dude should be eliminated. For whatever reason, Jed had this. People were talking about Jed like he's done something throughout the entire game, when really he won 2 or 3 competitions really at the end, and then he was chilling up in HOH room and with a part of a large alliance that was extremely indecisive. Whereas Keith was like making moves throughout the game, was put in danger, was out of danger, talk himself out of being gone. He was gone. And and everyone knew it, and he still was there. He still was there. Tina couldn't even say ha about it. So he has the resume. And
Kiefer's the more well-rounded player all around. Jedson is not a rounded player. Jedson's a kind of a one-dimensional player, really.
A comp beast that I think Taryn also did the calculations, won only 30% of all the challenges he was in. That's
not 300. He's not comp beast. He's he's middle of the lineup at best.
Yes.
Bottom of the order, maybe.
But the marketing on this man is amazing. That Jed is amazing. Jed can't be stopped. There's no way you could stop him. He's been stopped throughout the season. And then in addition to that, they're like, once Jed is eliminated, well, Tara can't be stopped. Tara's Jed's kryptonite. Tara's unstoppable, so we have to look after Tara. Tara won 2 competitions, 2 competitions, 3 competitions. That's just as much as Jed. And then now they're like, Braden's 3 in a row. He's gonna win. He can't be stopped. One more and he's gone. He's gotten this a lot.
Braden's won just as much as Kiefer or almost anybody else at this point, and who's left? Beth won 1 HOH, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Right.
1 HOH.
You know? So now she looks like the weakest of the bunch.
She is the weakest.
Well, she is.
I can't. Her and Ty are the weakest, but at least Ty has set himself up for the end of the game with Kiefer and with Tara and also with Braden. What has Beth done? Beth put all of her eggs really into Tara and the Tara and Braden. Tara and Jed baskets, and let's say a couple weeks back, and has not really done enough to really earn the trust of the other people. And also, she can't win. She hasn't won. She has not lasted to the end, with the exception of this last HOH, which she won in a long shot because her going all in. Right, Braden had that competition handily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's I don't think you can make a case for who was the floaters here. And I don't think that it's all about competition wins either. Although I think sometimes you do need to save yourself, or there's something to be you should be commended for being able to do these things, but it's not the be all and end all of the whole situation. If you just don't have the respect of your fellow contestants, then I don't think you really have much of a hope. Unless you're sitting next to somebody they hate more.
Floating, Braden was a floater. Braden and Tara were straight floaters. But in this game, it's kind of good to be a floater up until a point, right? And Braden and both Tara were flirting with the past the point of you need to get involved, and they have, and they've won, right? So it kind of makes what they previously done okay, but this is where, if you're playing a floating game, you got to really turn it up in the end, because you need to make up lost ground, right? And
let the snakes fight the snakes.
Yeah,
that was her approach.
Yeah, but you got to turn it up, and you got to start, really getting the thick of things. And I think both Tara and Braden have done so. Beth, she was kind of floating, but not, because she kind of relied on other people and they just did strategy in the background kind of thing. She's won one, and in doing so, she has this air that she has control the game, or she's this dominant force that deserves something. She doesn't deserve anything. When pairing up resumes, she's there, and she should be in the unemployment line. Everyone else, cushy jobs.
Beth, babe, you're not my number 2.
No, sorry,
Beth.
Babe.
Braden should have said that. Actually, you're not my number 2. Scratch that. You are my number 2. It's oh no,
oh
no.
no. Yeah, so I think Braden's stock up after tonight for me. He's looking like he's this player that we've written off at times, and he's come back here with a vengeance. So good on him. Deshaun, I think, also playing an interesting game. I think he has got an interesting resume in his own right, although it's not competition wins. I think it's actually just staying off the block, as Tara was telling us tonight.
And once again, Ty doesn't touch the block.
Once again, she wasn't having it.
I would love to hear your thoughts and scenario, but we can do that later on at the end. But I really want to pick your brain about scenarios post this week. Love to hear.
Yeah, well, this final four, assuming it's this group minus Beth, we'll get into that, I guess. But it feels like Beth is not long for this. That the target here, and I think that Tashawn doesn't really want her around I don't think she serves his game at this point.
I agree.
Or Kiefer, or especially Kiefer.
Yeah, Kiefer does not need her. I just a brief note. So on Monday, it was asked who were the nominations were, and we provided information that at the time seemed accurate. It's not like when we have feeds that people say explicitly, here's the recap. This is what happening. This is what happening. We have to take implied information, and that's the information we provide to you. So at that time, it was implied that both Kiefer and Beth were in dire straits. That wasn't necessarily the case as we see here. With the results of the nominations and also the veto. So I just want to clarify that
we
for the
have to
people.
put a retraction out there. Our spoiler coverage on Monday night was completely bogus, but that's what Wikipedia was telling me at the time, and I thought it was accurate. But it turns out Wikipedia is not always reputable.
Yeah, it was because, as I stated once again, once the feeds turned back on, there was a lot of catch up that everyone had to do.
So some
And
false assumptions were
yes,
being put out there.
yeah. So well, technically we got one out of the two right. Just want to say that. Beep beep.
Yeah.
And then I also did message you yesterday. I sent you a message, and I clarified. I'm like, oh no, I think we got this wrong. This is what happened plus this. So
yes.
we
I was like,
learned shortly after. We learned shortly after.
Yes. Well, we're here about 16 minutes into tonight's podcast, and we just want to we really should have cleared that up first. But hey, if you're still with us, yes, we were totally wrong, but we won't be wrong again. And if we are, we'll tell you. So
yes,
we'll commit to that.
We'll put it on the front page.
Yes. I just want to also note some things in this episode tonight. Braden's HOH room sequence and everything else here, whatever. But when he went to Wendy's to go get his food, and he had the message there from his family, it's weird. You get a letter from somebody, and then you get a video message from actual like family members.
Yeah.
Right. Like, or somebody like you're more like next to kin type thing. Right. Versus like, your letter might be from your uncle or something, maybe your distant cousin or a friend of a friend.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it should be kind of switched, but
Braden's friend wrote him a letter, and it was like kind of a whatever letter. And
it just seemed like a real letter. Like, these are the type of letters I expect that I would receive. Like, I'm not going to be crying over these letters. So,
well, yeah, it was like, hey, it was like basically an email from your friend, and I was like, okay,
yeah.
we just read an email from his friend, but it's written on paper. So hey, there you go. Braden was taking Kiefer to Wendy's, but when he went to go get his video message, it was like his mom and his two siblings, like younger than him, and they were kind of like, hello, Braden, we are very proud of you. It is amazing. And they're just like, they're reading off the script, and I just was
they're waiting for the cue card to change.
We and all of Alberta are behind you, Braden. And I was like, well, these are like creepy, this family. But then I realized they were terrified. And just like completely intimidated by what was like having to like be on at Wendy's.
BBCAN is there with like a shotgun behind the camera going, don't spoil any.
Yeah, we were able to keep Braden from winning for this long, but now we need the video message. That's what's required. So this whole move to take he takes Kiefer to Wendy's, but really here, if Tara or Beth were to have taken themselves off the block, because at this point that's who we are, the presumptive nominees who will go on to be the nominees. So Kiefer is talking to Braden as if this has already happened, but he's like, if one of them come down, would you put up to Sean over me? And Braden's like, no. And Braden's pretty straight up that he's more loyal to Deshaun than he is to Kiefer. Is he making a mistake, Braden, here?
You know what?
Even if that's true.
At this point, not really, because I think like the pecking order is pretty set. With Tara at the bottom of the pecking order between the three dudes, right? So him saying, "I'm gonna put you up." Let's say Kiefer survives. I'm pretty sure that if Kiefer puts people up, he's going to put up Tara and someone else. All right? And he's just kind of like, I don't mind this move because they're joking about it, but he's / serious about it. Like, like if you don't win, or if the noms change, I'm gonna have to put you up. And he's just putting that prior work in, where it's like, I didn't lie to you. I was upfront with you how important this veto was. But yeah, either make sure that the noms stay the same, or you better win.
Right.
Eh,
Well, maybe is Kiefer even maybe putting a little bit too much pressure into the situation, knowing that there's only two possible replacements, him or Tashawn, right? So,
but it's good
is
to know where
he?
you stand, though. It's good.
Yeah. But so does Kiefer just not know? Like, does
No,
he
Kiefer
just,
knows. Like Kiefer, like that awkward situation where he's like, "I'm gonna put you up," and he's like, they just awkwardly end the scene with Kiefer looking at his feet. Oh,
Mhm.
I think, look, he's being straight with him, right?
Yeah, no,
So
okay. So I think it is better for Keith. It's better for Braden to be up front here. But down the line, like outside of this week, I just wonder if Kiefer might, if he this just shows Braden's hand a little bit more to Kiefer at this point too, right?
true, it does.
So
It
so
does.
if Kiefer has to, I don't know, who does Kiefer want to sit to at the end next to
He
at
just
the
needs to
end?
get to the end. Like,
Yeah, that's
in my
fair.
opinion, that's his situation. Let's say that someone goes on a winning streak. The fact that they didn't take him out is a testament to Kiefer in general. So,
Hmm.
like, he still has a pretty good chance to win, regardless of who he's sitting next against. He just needs to make it to the end. Now,
And
Braden technically is also putting in work, because let's say Kiefer wins HOH. Braden could just turn around and say, "Look, I've been straight up with you from like the jump." So when in that situation, yeah, I was thinking about putting you on the block, right? I was being honest with you. I didn't try to like trick you or anything like that. I was straightforward. Like, this is what my plan was. This is what happens if my plan does not work. Give you a chance to actually do anything. So I'm asking for the same thing. Like, let me know where I stand. I'll try to my best to convince you. Like, just you want to get more chances. And Beth's approach should have been, she should have put in the work with Braden prior to nominations, right? Put in more work, put in more pressure, so that she has more chances. She knows she's already at the bottom, right?
right.
And uh, I just feel like, as long as you have an idea, especially when you're coming to the end, as long as you have an idea of where you stand, you have the ability to kind of course correct.
Okay.
And I think that was a favor that Kiefer was given in that situation, and did some
Right.
work for
And
Braden.
I guess, but Braden was aware of that too, right?
Yeah,
So it was, so you kind of saw these dynamics. And I thought there was a couple conversations here that was like Ty and Braden, and Ty, Braden talking about them being each other's number one, having this final two deal. But then you got, you have like Tara and Braden talking too, and they have an interesting dynamic in this house. Obviously, Tashawn and Kiefer have a connection. Beth has history with all these people, but she seems to be really kind of on her own. She's the most isolated,
yeah.
of this final
Ice
five.
isolated. Isosceles isolated.
Isolated. Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Did you notice that Braden did not indicate to Tara that it was Tashawn's decision that she went home? Right? She was pretty mum on that. He could have just said, "Hey, me and Kiefer didn't want to send you home, but it was Tashawn's HOH, and he decided that, so we went along with it. This is my HOH, and I'm deciding that you are staying, so that's why you
Right.
don't have to worry about it. Me and Keith did not want you gone."
Is this an example of Braden protecting Tashawn out
That's
of
what I
some kind of,
think.
right? Is he a little bit emotional? I think in the Braden Tashawn bromance or romance, straight up whatever it is, it's for Tashawn, it's a means to an end. Like, he flirts with Beth, but he really, it's not, he's not in love, but
Well, I
he,
don't think Braden is either. I think Braden, he
maybe not love, but
likes.
infatuated.
Well, look, uh, there's pretty people, and if pretty people want to like rub you and like give you massages and cuddle with you, I don't think Braden's gonna say no, right?
Right.
And Braden just seems like the type of person, he's a flirt, so he's getting that feedback. That's great, but I don't think he would s- like like torpedo his game just so that Ty could touch him, right? I don't think that's the case, right?
Right.
He doesn't
Well, not
seem
just so he can
holed up.
touch him. It depends if Braden's reading the situation for what it is. If it's just like a showmance, or does Braden long for more? Is he more? We see he's clingy. He's clingy to whoever he's connected to. It used to be Austin, and then it was Beth for like a week, and then it became Tashawn, or it has been Tashawn for a long time, and we haven't known it officially on the show. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Right. So interesting how they're all playing this out, how the different connections. Ty mentions he's loyal to Braden, and then Beth's pitch to Braden, about, hey, you got to take out Kiefer, and it's she does make some good points, and yes, they do have to get out of Kiefer, but I almost understand why they want to get out Beth now instead of Kiefer. If you're Tashawn and Braden, well, that's all that's left, and Tara. Like, if you're those three people who aren't if you had to pick between Kiefer and Beth, I almost still want to get Beth out at this stage, because she, like I mentioned on Monday, I just think she's just not somebody you want in a Final Four. She's so unpredictable. She's such a wild card.
Yep.
And I don't think I want to play with that kind of a player at the end.
And I think for both Ty and Kiefer, it also closes the book on the Sunsetter Isosceles kind of storyline, where it's like, they're done, we're moving forward, we have cut our ties to this past regime, and we move forward. They were not able to, right? That's kind of an argument that they can put forth. Like, if you have Beth around, then it kind of just brings up the fact that we just cut Ty from the Sunsetters, or we cut Ty from the Isosceles, and we move forward with that. And that's not necessarily the conversation or the narrative you want to bring forward to the jury. So I like the Beth free narrative for both of them.
It's definitely better for Ty.
Yes.
The Isosceles Triangle, aka the Sauce, has been on fire in competitions lately.
What were they?
For about a day.
Yeah.
This isn't a team game.
Yes, it is. I was gonna say that. I was gonna be like, yeah, but look where you're at right now.
And look where they're at right now. You know what like? Look where you're at. Right? Yes, it is. It's not a team game. It's an individual game where you team up from time to time to get to the end. Sometimes
but
you
Tashawn is the only member of the Sauce that understood this truly.
Yeah. Yep.
Whether he came to the realization at some point.
And Kiefer had to learn it the hard way, because he put all of his trust, and luckily was able to like pull sentimentality to get himself off the block and survive. But like since then, like, the dude hasn't touched a block yet. You would think that he would be like constantly coming up as like, hey, we're gonna put you back up there. Like, no one has put him up. It's crazy.
He's done a lot of work. I think that Tashawn's social game has been greatly underrated, even though he doesn't know what reindeer, or he doesn't think reindeer are real, or he's there's other things he's confused about, as I recall. Maybe that doesn't matter. He's able to read people pretty well.
Yeah.
He does have a sort of an acute awareness around what the dynamics are. And he kind of knows when to get off the Beth train and the Jetson train when at the appropriate stops.
Yes.
And he's shown this ruthlessness in this game. But then there's these other times where he wouldn't skip the dishes, or he's just kind of a fun, kind of goofy guy that doesn't seem like he's that threatening overall.
Yes. And I think we're gonna see that in the next episode.
Absolutely. Okay, what else in this episode is worth mentioning?
Did you like the argument? The Beth argument with Kiefer and Ty?
Did I like it? Not really. It was.
I'm surprised it didn't expose Ty there, because he was flippy floppy, just as Beth was with Jed. in the sense that he refused to tell Jed that he was voting him out, and that should have been the point of focus with Beth's like talking to Braden. It's like, look, you can't trust this dude. This dude was like A and B with Jed, and he couldn't even be straight with Jed. At least Kiefer owned up to it early on and allowed him to actually leave with some dignity. Um, but like Ty refused to. To this day, Ty has not told Jed that he was gone, right? Like actually said it to him. So I'm just saying, sure, you're quote unquote in bed with him, but you can't trust him because he will do him before he does you.
Yeah, well, I think Kiefer and Ty are willing to cut each other. Given the
Yeah,
chance.
absolutely. But
Yes.
like Beth, like I just feel like some of these arguments that people are bringing forth, they're half measures. They're not really going the entire way, or they're not putting all the eggs in the proper baskets and distributing it like Braden is able to kind of brush it off like this is just Beth. Like drop facts. This is a fact that you could use against Ty, and she didn't really use it. She was pointing out that he was flippy floppy. No, from the jump that week, Ty was always saying, "Hey, we need to get out Jed." Right? Once that
Right.
plan was enacted, right? And that was the complete narrative. Beth might not have known that completely, but she shouldn't be saying things that she doesn't know. She should be saying the things she does know, which is he never told him directly.
Right. Yeah. Was that fight after the veto or before the veto?
It was before the veto.
It was before the veto. Yeah. I didn't write down a lot about it. I just wrote that Beth is a sore loser.
She is.
Beth, babe, you're not my number 2. It's good that they're getting her out.
Yes.
There was just like a kind of. I think Beth in this, as far as what she can bring from a gameplay standpoint, is kind of, I'm over it. I think that she's just an unstable element. We got a comment here from B-Bean saying, funny how Jed was cut so they could win, but the same logic does not apply to Kiefer. So, I think that, well, it never did. I think is the answer is like, well, Kiefer was in their alliance, and, to Jedson, I think Kiefer was more of a peripheral ally, and to Beth as well. I think to Sean, Kiefer was a little bit more significant, but he was never a member of the trio. And you can't win as a team. And
Yes.
also, Deshaun explained that to Jed. Jed was like, "Hey, man, I can't like it's not about winning or going down to the end, because Jedson's thinking like Anthony was, and so, but actually, Deshaun is more of the Dane Rupert of this group, of that duo of the Undercover Brothers. He's like, yeah, man, we're all together, but really, I want to win.
At the end of the day, only one person is going home with the big prize, right? Kiefer understands that. Ty understands that. I don't think Jed and Beth are really understanding that, like at all, and they weren't really positioning themselves to be in a position to be a clear number one.
Right. Yeah. Like, so as I've been saying, like, I'm like, even when Beth was coming at Deshaun in this argument, I thought he handled it really well.
Yeah.
He's like, why, Beth? What's up? Tell me what I did.
But who's she arguing to? This is what I didn't understand. Neither of them have any power at this like exact moment. You should be talking to Braden. You should be like spending time with Braden, getting into his head, and like, hey, like.
Well, we saw she was
what's going
trying to do that a little bit, but the thing is, she can't bring herself to do it, because in her mind, Braden is a lower class to her or something, right? He's a lesser, and she thinks that really it's up to Kiefer and more to Sean. She sees Sean as the new king.
You know what makes me laugh is how upfront Kiefer is with everything. Kiefer flat out tells everyone he's gonna win the game. He's doing a great job. He's awesome. But in the same breath, he also tries to like pump other people out. Like, Braden, one more win and you got this in a lock. I think you're gonna win. And like, Tara, you're amazing. You're awesome. Like, he's just like, he's the cheerleader for everyone, including himself. So people just kind of like, yeah, I like Keith. I like being around Keith. He's kind of fake, but I like being around him. Whereas
Is that Tara from season 9?
is that Tara from season 9? Oh yeah, like that type of stuff. It makes you feel good when you win, right?
Right.
And even when you don't. And he's like, he's kind of already talking about what his strategy is at the end. So he's kind of an open book. So
It's loyal to the soil, loyal to the squad, Sunsetters for life.
like straight up, his narrative is great. Like, I was loyal until they
They were
betrayed
not
me.
loyal to me, and then they almost did him a favor.
It's like, thank you. My book was my story was getting a little bit lame and a little bit boring, and you allowed me to have a little rise in action.
Comment here from Bean saying Kiefer is liked by the jury the most. He is the biggest threat to win. Agreed. I think that they have to I just don't think this is necessarily the stage of the game. You have to get Kiefer out. However, you never know when your last chance is going to come here, right?
Yeah, like, I do not want this dude going on an immunity run. Like, okay, he doesn't win HOH. If he wins the veto, like, you guys are screwed.
Mhm.
And then, like, he only needs to win 3 competitions, and he's practically won this game.
And he's so good at social. Like he could probably convince somebody to take him to the final 2 anyway.
3 competitions. That's all he needs to do.
Assuming he doesn't, but let's say he doesn't win he doesn't get a say in or gets to decide, put himself into the final 2, right? Like he could probably talk them into bringing him to the final 2.
Yeah.
If whether that's Braden, whether that's even to Sean, maybe.
Yeah,
You know?
I agree. But like,
Yeah, so-
just think about it. Once you get to the final 4, you only need to win 3 competitions to be guaranteed to sit in the final 2. And for him, sitting in the final 2 means a guaranteed win.
Right. So they're so close to the end.
So
But the same thing goes. Like, how do you know Beth can't win the next veto? And when she could get herself, and then she's in the final 2, and then I think that they'll go, well, we had a chance to get her out there. So
I just think that Beth isn't liked generally by majority of the people there.
But speaking of Kiefer, I just want to bring up the fact too that Kiefer was like in some of his diary room sessions. As much as I think he's a good player, he gives us a lot of bad moments here. He says a lot of obvious things.
2 balls makes this twice as hard.
He's gone to the Jeff Probst school of commentary.
Did you know that 2 balls makes it twice as hard?
Twice as hard? It depends on the situation. I've known one person that has a hard time with 1 ball, but regardless,
Would it be twice as hard though?
Well, maybe.
Or how about this one?
Balances.
If I don't have safety, I ain't feeling safe.
I touched the water and it was wet.
Yes, air is windy, and there's a whole bunch of things he throws out here. What did you think of this veto competition with the pinball? But it was also kind of aerobic, and
I liked it. Okay, we're pretty much not getting super physical competitions this year. Like, we keep on waiting for it. It's not happening. So this is one of the challenging ones. Where it kind of combines different elements, including the physical, and like supposedly this was Beth's competition to win. Not Beth, sorry, Tara, spin instructor Tara, but there was enough element of skill that was required, and Braden put his cards on the table. He stated what his strategy was, and he was able to keep to it. So I think if it went longer, he was still going to win.
Right. Well, yeah, I thought it was an interesting. Like, I don't know if it makes a great TV competition, because it's like once it got to like 3 balls, I was like, "What's going on here? I can't quite follow." But it was kind of like a Survivor. It plays better maybe outdoors or something. It was just something about this the lighting that wasn't quite working for me.
It's just too big. It's too big for you to keep your eye on multiple things at the same time.
Yeah,
like
maybe like
Survivor,
higher up.
In
overhead
Survivor, you can
shot.
kind of have like a camera on the side, and you can kind of see both of them working at it at the same time. And they usually have a more contained area where it just kind of loops, right? So
Yeah. So I thought that that it was okay. I thought that the costuming interesting. Tara was the first out though.
Yep.
And then Kiefer, and then Beth. It came down between Ty and Braden, and Braden won. And good on Braden.
Do you think like? Do you think?
What a great feeling!
Do you think
H-O-H! What a great feeling.
he's working on that soundboard? I'm telling you, Braden's put in work for our soundboard.
Braden was not looking good in the early parts of the soundboard, but he's really come up.
Yeah.
He kind of goes in and out.
Yeah.
No, of course, girl. I'll definitely let you know if anyone is gonna backdoor you this week.
They just have that like that chime, that symbol every time at the end of it.
You need that special emoji.
Yes. Yeah. Braden wins again. Right on. That's 3 in a row, or 2 if we're not talking fake ones, but we're gonna count fake ones.
Comment here was the only endurance comp. This was kind of an endurance comp, but it was like there was the one that Jedson won way back when the first veto he won many weeks ago was kind of
the first 2 comps, weren't they? The arrow and also the sandbag one. So they did endurance ones earlier on. There was strength endurance in a sense.
But is there some point to this question here where they're saying that they don't have like production limitations with COVID might be limiting certain types of endurance competitions like wall comps and different things? Maybe. It seems like they're getting away with a lot, considering they're not able to do something.
In the grand scheme of things, I'm not going to complain because there was more of a wide gamut of people winning this year, as opposed to if it was just physical and Jed and Ty were winning everything, this would have been a very boring season. So I appreciate the mixture in terms of skill, trivia, and like just rethinking the dynamics of it, right? The carnival game aspect of it, where
I've been super happy with the competitions this year.
well then.
Because it hasn't been the season of Tashawn and Jedson and they're and because I find that and the Dane Ruperts of the world who are just kind of they're better at certain types of things, and these competitions have been mostly like level setters and allowing all kinds of different players to win all kinds of different things, for better or worse, and but the social dynamics are always been playing out like, well, what if Jedson wins? What if Tashawn wins? Like even Tashawn says, I'm the biggest physical threat here now that Jed's gone. But why? Like I'm more afraid that Kiefer's gonna win than you, Ty. Like,
wouldn't you like if this is the norm going forward, where it's more of a skill-based carnival game with hints of elements in one direction where it might be more important to have skill or knowledge or luck. This is more exciting. And if you're like a physical threat, like you can kind of like, hey, I don't have to like play a certain role that I'm forced into every single season. You see it every year. It's like I'm the physical threat, so I got to win this competition. If you don't, you're gone. Where it's like I don't necessarily have to worry about a big strong dude because all his muscles aren't really important in terms of a lot of the competitions. And I think that gives a lot of flexibility going forward to people being on the show and different threats to be kind of focused upon. Like, honestly, if I was on a show and there's a juggler, I'm like, I need to get this dude out because I am not taking any chances with his ball handling skills, right?
That's right.
Just because they're like, they have that carnival aspect of it, that they can manipulate things a lot better than big brooding dude over there who, if this was weights, he could handle it better, but unfortunately it's not. It's getting a ball and a balance and having to deal with that. I would be more with the juggler.
Yeah, and just seeing how like the US season just played out with Cody and how well he was doing and like Christmas and whatever. It seems like that's the kind of player you need to gravitate towards as an ally, but not necessarily. I think that there's a high degree of randomness in any Big Brother season, and so you have to be ready for like these weaker beta players to win, right?
Beta.
The question also is Braden's maximum second place. Who can he beat? I think he can beat almost anybody but Kiefer.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, I think that Braden is wildly underrated by a lot of people.
If you're Braden, three more wins, and you could have won the game. You could win this game because look, if he wins the 3 competitions, he wins the let's say he wins POV, and then he wins 2 out of the 3 of the final thing. That's a pretty. You win like basically 6 out of 7 competitions that you're eligible for at the end of the game. You're floating. Uh theory, your plan, your objective for throughout the game makes absolute sense, right? And it paid out for you. You said, this was my plan. I did my plan. Once I was in danger, I started winning, and I won myself to the end of the game, right? No one hates me, right? I was put in danger. Ty wasn't put in danger. He was never put on the block, right? He was carried, basically. So, what was his master stroke? What was Ty's master stroke? Nothing really. Nothing that.
Not really anything. He just, I think he actually has a hard time arguing again. I think you're absolutely right. That why not Braden over Ty at the end?
Yeah. Right. So I think Braden absolutely has a shot to win. He's put himself in a position to do so.
Braden,
but at the end of the day, with anything, it's how you present your information, because it's not yourself or me on the outside who sees everything. You have to convince the jury, right? And if the jury's getting information, a partial information, or information that's detrimental to your story, you're going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting to convince them of what you want the narrative for them to accept.
Right. Knowing that there are certain biases in the jury that you just can't get over. Like, I feel like Victoria is got a player, is a type of juror who that will sort of, she already kind of knows how she wants to vote. I feel like, she has a pecking order on who she would vote for. And I feel like that's kind of locked in. Jedson, even though he says he'll vote for anybody, I think he kind of also is, has a bit more loyalty too, but like a Rohan or a Tina, like those votes could go maybe a bunch of different ways.
Yeah, Rohan doesn't care. Whoever plays the best game in his mind, he's voting for. Same thing with Tina, right? Beth is a little bit too emotional, so I'm not necessarily counting on her vote. Victoria has a narrative in her mind. She is. But she'll like certain things. Like if she sees Beth going out on Braden's account, she'll be like, yes, Braden, put truth to power, get that woman out, because she feels jilted by Beth.
The counter argument, though, I'm afraid might be like, what? Braden won HOH and he didn't get a Kiefer? You got a Beth? What a waste. What an idiot.
True.
Right? And so if Kiefer's there at the end against Braden, then Kiefer. But I think that's already almost kind of locked in, because Kiefer has such a story, right? And he is a more well-rounded player, if you will. He's not his flaws aren't as obvious as they are on a Braden or a Beth or even to Sean, right? Who's maybe got obviously some weaknesses in his game too. As they all do. They're like, I think Kiefer is the more well-balanced player for sure.
But it's an interesting conversation, at least, to have at the end, right? As opposed to Ty, which is like, what did you do again? Right? So yes, I agree in that respect. Yes, with Ty.
Thank you, BB. Great points, gentlemen. But the perception of Bray is that he's been carried to this point. Winning comps against 4 people is different than winning against 10. True, but if you're here at the end and you have the chance and you do start winning at these final 4, it doesn't really matter, because this is when it mattered. This is when it mattered most, and you were able to win it because people thought you weren't a threat, that you were worth leaving on the board because they could beat you. And then he's beat them 3 times in a row now since the last veto.
Jed didn't win competitions until it was 7? There were 7 people, so he's competing against 6 people.
How has Beth not been carried? How has Beth been less carried than Brayden?
She just was in the room with people. She was part of an alliance.
Right?
Like
how has Tara been less carried?
Austin, was it Bray had Austin, and that was his alliance. The oddballs lasted for one vote. One vote.
Right. Yeah. I agree that like there was we like we said, we wrote off Brayden. We said Brayden, forget about it. He can never win this. He was asleep for half the game, just talking to Austin, thinking like him and Austin were one person. Like they were somehow merged into one mind. And when they were on the block together, they thought that they could both be vetoed. And they were like, you're two individuals. Right. And then Austin left. And then Brayden, we saw this new version of Brayden that was like kind of working some social angles, was kind of annoying people like Kiefer, and was taking over, was getting some new clout in this game all of a sudden, right? When he had been written off. But if you go back even further, there were weeks where Brayden and Austin were kind of a threat in the house. They were kind of the leaders of this other side at one point. So it's like he's had this real like up and down like sort of roller coaster. And I think he's got a compelling chance to win. But he's still, I think, one of the more of the underdogs of the group, right?
There's still a lot of competitions to go. We have 5 competitions left, 5 comps.
Yeah, like just a couple left. Like if it was Brayden and Tara at the end, do you think that Tara's got more respect?
No, not really. I don't think so.
I don't think so.
For him to get to that point, he's got to have won something, and therefore he has more wins than her.
Right. So I think like aside from Kiefer, Brayden wins. He might be actually like way up in the rankings compared to some of these other players.
I would
like
agree to that.
Deshaun is this player that sort of needs to do a bit more in order to sort of I think have a case.
And then he also go crazy and sell himself a lot during that final 2 jury segment, in my opinion.
Yeah.
He's going to have to do a lot of legwork during that conversation.
But I think he deserves respect for being like, hey, I never went on the block. Hey, I was always in the right place, right time. And I think you can make a case. It's just it's a harder argument.
Right place, right time just screams to me luck. Just screams to me luck, as opposed to like I put myself in a position to never be on the block.
And he turned on Jedson, whereas Beth didn't. That's what makes him different than Beth.
But all the credit was given to Kiefer from the jury's perspective. So it's like if Kiefer is even nearby, right? And then at the same time, the question is, why wasn't Jed put on the block?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was Tara's issue.
We'll be looking back in about a week or and a half from now going, was it right to get to target Beth and or Tara, depending on who goes tomorrow night in this eviction, to get one of these 2 players out ahead of Kiefer? I think if the answer can only be yes if it's Beth. I don't think it's Tara. There's no compelling reason to get rid of Tara now again, other than for just like if they just want to feel better about themselves because they evicted her and it's hard to look at her at breakfast.
You try to not look at her during breakfast.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Tara. I voted you out, so I have to vote you out again. So breakfast is easier. And it depends on who takes out Keefe, if anybody. If Tara takes out Kiefer, yeah, her stock goes way up. Tara's stock would go way up. Deshaun's stock could go way up if he's the one who cuts Kiefer, especially since he has a pretty public, strong relationship with him outwardly. I think the optics of that would have the biggest impact on Deshaun's game if he were the one to do it.
Yep.
Versus even Tara or and certainly Brayden or Beth, right? Because they've just never been as close. But I think like who's Kiefer's pretty close, like hugging and cheering and laughing with Deshaun here. And if Deshaun's like the one, I cut Jedson, I cut Kiefer. I was the one.
Sunset for the Sunsetters.
So I was the one. Putting the sun, setting the sun on the Sunsetters the whole time. I'm the last Sunsetter standing. You guys never saw how I was kind of working the entire thing for me. That with the right speech, maybe.
Yeah.
Right speech, right, and the right adversary who you're sitting next to, who maybe fumbles over their words or doesn't
like Kiefer. Thank God Keeper has like so much going for him right now, because I don't necessarily believe that his speech is going to be that good.
It will probably be something like this.
The man with the mullet. Big gullet, bigger heart. Let's go.
Let's go. And they'll be like, I don't know what that means.
Thank you. I was craving that line. I was.
Stay solid.
I just had to play it to Sean Clip. Stay solid. Stay solid. The Alliance. Braden. Did you? Oh, one other question. Did you realize that Beth's nickname was Berta Beef?
No, I did not.
Did you catch that tonight?
Yes, I did. Like these nicknames coming in the last second, like Blue Line for Tina.
Yeah.
Like you hear it just before they're about to go.
Hashtag Berta Beef.
Berta Beef. Oh my god.
Get on there before it's too late.
Yep.
Berta Beef. Yeah, they called her Berta Beef. Blah blah blah. Anyway, the veto wasn't used tonight. And Tara, so will Tara's chance to rewrite history come true was our cliffhanger for the episode. So I think we could probably jump into. Do you have any spoilers? Do you have any kind of insight knowledge in terms of what this vote will be tomorrow night?
Kind of. It's once again, it's pretty set who they're gonna vote out, so it isn't necessarily a spoiler.
So we had to explain the Berta Beef. So they're calling Beth. Her Sean was referring to her as Berta Beef, as in Alberta.
Yeah,
the province she's from, and then beef is an export. They're known for their beef in Alberta.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it isn't really a spoiler. Just who you think they're getting out. Everyone says that they're getting out.
So Beth.
Yes.
Okay. So
we've said that people are going to be, voted out, and then at the last second work is put in and things change.
It flips onto Tara somehow tomorrow. I just don't see why. I don't see because Tara's stock has, yes, she got out. She fought her way past Jedson, but she's also been voted out. And I think that's always a blemish on your record in some ways. You have to be able to fight out of that with more resume bullet points, say I did this and this and this. Yes, I got voted out, but then I came right back in. So I feel like it's always like a little bit of a discommendation.
You came back on a twist.
You came back on a twist. You got lucky. You were, you got voted. But that's kind of the truth. You were voted out at the right time.
Yeah.
Right. Well, Tina didn't get a chance to battle back because she got voted out a week early. Well, I guess sucks to you, Tina.
Yeah.
So it's good on Tara, but I don't think it negates it.
Correct. I agree. So not really any spoilers. I think all we need to do is run down what is next for the Super Mader Brothers podcast.
Well, Super Mader Brothers podcast will be back tomorrow night around 10:30 tomorrow night to cover this eviction episode for the week for week 9, right before we head into Final 4 and the final weeks of this podcast. We do got a question here about what does your gut say for each of you, the percent chance Beth leaves. I'm going to go with 95.
99.99999999999. It's my Beth. My Beth. That's what I feel. I feel like she already has her bags packed, honestly.
I just don't see Deshaun and Kiefer changing their minds on this.
Yeah. And
right.
She'll get to spend more time with Jed in the jury house too.
Yeah. Everyone wins.
Yeah,
except for Beth. Okay,
and also Victoria.
And also, Victoria's probably been hit on Jed since he got there.
Forget about her.
Who knows? Yeah, forget about who. Beth who?
Beth who?
Yeah. So also on Super Mader Brothers podcasting, we will we are going to do this weekend. I haven't actually had a chance to coordinate it when exactly we're doing it, but we want to do Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Following the making of the assembled featurette that will come out on Disney Plus on Friday to kind of finish off that series and talking about everything that happened there as we continue our Marvel Cinematic Universe coverage. We also did the Netflix series The Serpent last Friday. My brother Jeff and I and Mott. Happy birthday, Mott! By the way,
yes,
50 years old today. I pointed out to him that, hey, my grandmother's turning 100 within the next 2 weeks. So
Wow.
So she's exactly 50 years older than you, Mott. She turned 50 when she turned 50, you were born, and here you are turning 50. And it's not really a full circle; it's like a half circle, but you get the idea. So we've been covering those shows, as well as Big Brother Canada. We're also going to be covering Big Brother USA when that hits, probably in the summer. So yeah, we do all that. Also, we have our other channels. One is called Trivial Debates. That's our monthly show at the end of Sunday of each month, where we argue about movies, TV, sports, more, kind of a game show format. My son just hosted the last episode. My mother was one of the contestants. We had Adam Woodward and Jody Simpson from our other podcast, both on that one. So check out that. Plus all the battles we've always done on that show. We've done 4 seasons of that channel. And our other channel is called Live Long in Podcast. That's where we do Star Trek related events. You got to do the Vulcan salute, where on Tuesdays we talk about Star Trek Deep Space Nine. We've been doing every episode in order, watching it and reviewing it. We're on season 3 right now. Also, Star Trek, the original series, I watch with my dad every Wednesday night, and we talk about that with Adam Woodward and Jody Simpson. We just did Friday's Child tonight, which it was mixed. The panel was mixed on this, Jaemeel. But I liked it, but Adam Woodward hated it. And it was with Julie Newmar, one of the Catwomen from the 1960s Adam West Batman. She was in it. I thought it was fun. And then we also do Star Trek Radio Theater on that channel, where we reenact like the Star Trek scripts. We do script reads and things like that. And we just did one, Samaritan Snare, on Saturday night from Star Trek: The Next Generation with Steve Shives from YouTube fame. And I have to get to editing that podcast. That's my next mission. But we do all those types of things. So yes, it was really fun. I'm looking forward to revisiting that on the edit. So hey, I think that's all of our.
I think it is.
Yeah, there's a lot of podcasts going on.
Yeah.
I need a vacation.
Well, you're getting one this weekend, right? Because
this is my
hiatus
vacation
from Radio Theater this week.
Yeah, just taking Radio Theater off for a weekend's vacation.
Yes.
Yeah, so anyway, not the acting part. It's all the production work that goes like in and behind.
Man puts in a lot of work, folks. A lot of work.
Well, hey, I'm not asking for accolades. I'm just saying this is why I seem tired sometimes. So anyway. Jaemeel, thanks for the great podcast tonight, and we're almost there in this Big Brother Canada season. Let's ask Arissa what we should be thinking and saying as we close out tonight. Here we go. I hope you have a good night, and
you too.
Until then.
And remember, someone is